Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It is Janise Wiggins with Grant Me Success and the Nonprofit Leaders Academy. And I am so excited to be filming another episode of our special guests that are going to be sharing some wonderful information with you about their journeys in nonprofit leadership. Here today with me, I have Miss Dinisha Mingo. She is the founder and owner of Mingo Health Solutions, and she's also the founder and executive director of Solutions of Change, a wonderful nonprofit organization here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we are going to talk today about the mindset of a nonprofit leader. And Ms. Dinisha is going to share a whole host of other information with you. I just want you guys to be able to glean information and inspiration from what she has to share with us today. So Dinisha, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. You are my friend. You are a confidant. You're someone I look up to and just have had the wonderful opportunity of working very closely with over the last few years. And so I'm excited that you're hosting this series, as well as have recently launched your Nonprofit Leadership Academy. SOC, we have some of our staff going through it because we know how amazing you are. And so, because you're my girl, I'm excited to be here. You might have to be like, get on the inspirational, because I'm just going to want to talk to you.
Absolutely. That's okay. Well, this is just a conversation between friends, certainly. And we're just allowing other people to sort of get a peek, right? Peek behind the curtain of our innermost conversations of when we dialogue about nonprofits, nonprofit leadership, or business, and everything that it takes to run and operate a successful organization. So I'm so happy that you are here. And many of our viewers may know you, they may know about your organizations, but there are many people out there who maybe this is their first time and first introduction to Miss Dinisha Mingo. So can you share with the people, our viewers and our listeners, who is Dinisha Mingo?
Oh, I like the way you asked that versus telling us about yourself, right? And I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, Jada, and Willis, Taylor St. Clair. She's a stylist, and we were conversing, and she said, who are you outside of those titles, right? Outside of being a founder, outside of being a CEO, outside of being a sister or daughter, like, who are you? And so I'll go more into that, but I am someone who loves to empower people, who likes to help people, who wants to see the best, who is naturally good at building people and instilling confidence. And I'm passionate about justice and doing right and not taking advantage, and then just creating pathways that so many of, that I didn't have. And so while my hope is for everyone to really reach self-actualization, I definitely do focus on communities that have more disparities. And so the ways that I am en route to my own self-actualization, I guess, is through being what I say a servant leader, right? You have to serve first. Period, right? I think it's the most humbling thing to be a CEO, to be a founder. And, I know we'll talk more about that journey, but through starting Mingo Health Solutions in 2016, where we provide counseling and therapy services, like mental health is one way that I want to help people realize their full potential to really walk in their purpose for life, right? So for me, that's just one aspect of like the impact I really hope to make in the world. Like, it's bigger than just mental health. And then founded Solutions of Change. I'm a student. I'm in a PhD program, also in seminary, and I'm a giver. That is one of my spiritual gifts. I can say that with, great gratitude, but I am a giver in all the ways. So yeah.
I really enjoy your introduction and just sharing with people who you are at your core, right? Like you said, we have all these titles and we go and we have gotten these degrees and we're still getting more degrees. But who are you at your core? And so I just love that introduction. I also love the fact of you identifying who you are with regards to your spiritual gifts. right? And you are truly a giver. That is what I have observed. I have seen it. I have experienced it. And that really is who you are at your core for your spiritual giftings. And I find that I think that there's a way that we have figured out a way to mesh very well with our spiritual giftings. I'm more of like the administrative person, definitely a teacher, an exhorter, and you are those things as well. But your giving, honey, is just up there off the charts. And that's what I just really appreciate about you, and something that I think that has helped to bond. We say sister friendship, right? And so I really appreciate that about you. Give people a little bit more about your personal background and then just like educational background. You shared that you're in a PhD program right now, but there's a path that you took to get there, right? So tell us how Dinisha got to where she is right now.
Sure. So I am a Las Vegas native. Okay. I grew up in North Las Vegas, right? I went to Lois Craig Elementary School, went to Von Tobel, Monaco, and then in high school, I went to ATEC, Advanced Technologies Academy. Very proud of that. Probably my most proud educational institution until I get this PhD. But in high school, I actually studied law-related education. I even have an emphasis with law-related education on my diploma. And so I was pretty certain about becoming an attorney. And giving you a little bit more about my background, I grew up in a single-parent household. My mom struggled with addiction, and my mom's mom died when she was 18. And my mom put a lot of her plans on hold because she had these other siblings and she was one of the more mature ones, although she was a middle child. And so growing up, my mama would always tell me, like, if anything ever happens to me, your brother and sister will be fine. I'm a sister, right? And they're 8 and 12 years younger than me. So she would always tell me, like, don't stop, right? Don't stop going for your dreams. And I think from a very early age, one of the things I always share is my mom really instilled a lot of confidence in me. She would be like, baby, you could do anything. And I believe that. I believe that if I wanted to be president, I was going to put in the work to become president. And so I think that is a big part of my core, as well as instilling faith in God. And so I was a naturally good speaker. And then in high school, studying law, did debate and mock trial. And I really became interested in psychology and the mind and how it works, and more so in terms of behaviors, like why people did what they did. But I felt like I had to kind of choose. And so I did major in psychology in undergrad. I went to Portland, Oregon, Concordia University in Portland, Oregon. And I had my mind made up, but I had like this little crossroads. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to go to do you want to be a psychologist? Do you want to be an attorney? So I moved back here after graduating, and I was working at a law firm. And I had my mind made up, like I said. And so I went to apply to UNLV's law school. And at the time I noticed, that was probably maybe it was about 2011, right? I graduated college in 2010. And they had a dual degree program where you could get your PhD in educational psychology along with your law degree, your JD. And at that time, I was like, well, shoot, if I'm going back to school, might as well be doctor.
Right. Double up.
So I'm like, going back. But in order to do that, I had to apply for the master's and have the master's in educational psychology already in order to do that dual degree program. So I was like, okay, I'm going to fast track this. And, it wasn't as fast as I thought it was going to be, because by that time, we weren't a traditional college student, you're balancing life. But in one of my first classes in my master's program, someone introduced me to behavioral health. And I started working in a clinic day treatment setting, working with children. And then over time began to work for other companies, started working for adults. And since I started working in behavioral health, I first of all, I fell in love and never left. Yeah. Secondly, I only did it full time, which was pretty unprecedented for a person who didn't have, if you weren't a licensed clinician. And so I was just naturally really good at it. And I eventually started MHS, like I said, in 2016. And I enjoyed being a leader, right? I was in my element, building, training my providers, help, because I learned that I never wanted to have my own business, not in terms of running a team. Like I knew that I would probably have my own private practice. Even when I was younger, I'll be like, don't look at me. I ain't trying to be responsible for nobody. I had a lot of responsibility growing up and I just was like, but I recognize now God had just been building me right through my whole life experience to be a leader, to be an influencer. And when I became a director prior to starting MHS, and I would work with our providers, some who were a lot older than me, who had more experience, I think that's where I really fell in love with like seeing how me supporting them helped more people versus me just being one person.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when I started
Absolutely.
MHS, I was pretty good about not going back to school because I'm like, I got a team of licensed folks. I'm good at what I do. I get respect. But then in 2021, God was like, it's time to go back to school. And so now I'm doing my PhD in clinical psychology. And I know I gave you a lot, girl.
No, that's good. That's good. I learn more things. I learn things more and more, right? Like there have been times and situations where you and I have been with other people in your networks and my networks, and we're having conversation, and then just like new things come out. And I'm like, why would I know that about Dinisha? That right. And so it's just like, well, you got to ask, and it's just so important to just have more and more dialogue. So I'm learning too. So this is good. This is juicy information. So at some point you were working in the behavioral health field. You had worked your way up in your career. Sounds like you became a director where you were, and then you decided at some point, I'm going to start my own business. And that wasn't necessarily your mindset when you initially were in your collegiate career, but at some point, your focus turned to, you know what, I want to be an entrepreneur, and I believe I can be an entrepreneur. What support did you receive? And then maybe if there was any lack of support that you experienced in starting your business and becoming an entrepreneur full time.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And I'm glad that you asked. So, I'm pretty long-winded, so I will try to be just, concise.
Hey, we're flowing.
So the interesting thing is I started working in behavioral health in probably the end of 2011. And within my first year, 3 people said to me, you need to start your own business. And I was like, what? That just seems so like just bizarre and out of reach. I didn't have any idea about what business was, but for 3 people to say that to me, who were also business owners that I was working for, clearly they saw something in me. And I'm like, I just started working in this, but I think that's just how naturally gifted I was in this field. And so I began to do the work, and I was very proud about the work that I did. But to be honest, behavioral health in Nevada has had its own kind of rep, especially with Black people doing it, around like fraud and a reputation. And so, I would meet people and then, I'm like, oh, I'm a director of this organization. And, they say my pastor does that, or my aunt. And I'd inquire more about the experience, and it didn't seem like, people were bringing in maybe the same passion or experience that I did. So I really did not want to start my own because I like to do things that are set apart. I'm just going to be honest. And I didn't want to be lumped into this group of people who, oh yeah, they have one too. I just didn't, I felt proud to say I'm working in it, but I didn't think that I would feel proud to say I had my own. But purpose. So funny thing was, I'm working for different companies. There are things that I like about them, things that I don't. Some of it had to do with the way treatment was. Some of it had to do with the way providers were being trained. Some of it had to do with the way they treated their staff. Like I said, I'm a natural servant leader, and it just didn't sit right with me. And people would build like relationships and loyalty with me as their supervisor, but maybe not have that same connection with their owners. And I would tell the owners, because these weren't like large companies, like you should build better relationship with your staff because I don't plan on being here forever. And, and with us being in a human service field, I think that was one of the biggest things, like how you treat other people. So actually was like, I'm done with this. I don't want to do it anymore. I went on an interview with the Nevada Donor Network. They still look, I ain't gonna ever forget that. It was the first
Really? Look,
time.
that's
Yes.
something new. That's more new information. I never knew that. Okay, continue.
Girl, they had me speaking my Spanish and everything. I thought I did well. It was the first time I didn't get a job. And so
That's all
I
right.
really,
I have a similar story. I'm not gonna name drop, but I went to an organization and interviewed, and I didn't get the job. And I was like, huh? And you've heard these stories of people saying, oh, you're overqualified. Do you know that was really the answer that I received? And I just couldn't believe it. And I'm going, overqualified for which job?
right.
And it gives you it gave me an insight that, oh, sometimes people in leadership, sometimes leaders are truly really I don't know if threatened is the most appropriate term or word, but maybe they think that your ambition or your skill set or your background would begin to outshine theirs.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking about, wow, this is really truly an asset to have on my team who can help me to do this, or that. And wouldn't it be wonderful for us to combine our skill sets together and work together rather than feeling that it would be competitive? And that's another mindset.
No,
topic.
you're absolutely right. And I know you probably have witnessed me say to my team, you have permission to be great here. There is room enough for, we are not in competition. I've never been in competition except when I was in debate. When I'm doing debate in my trial, I'm coming for you. But outside of that, I'm in competition with no one in life. I believe in collaborating and, again, being a servant leader, like making way for people to like shine, because like you said, you have your gifts, I have mine. If I felt intimidated about having Janise come in and do what she did, I wouldn't be where I am. Solutions of Change would not be where it is, but we can all bring our gifts and know that it's one body, many members, right? Many parts.
Yes.
There's so much more we can do. And I think that's one of the things that I learned. And so, like, kind of taking it back, one of the first people who told me that I should do a business was Michelle Jackson. And one of the things she told me was, she said, Dinisha, it has to be about your team, right? Like, your team is what makes the difference. And that was the first piece of business advice I got that I never forgot. And so when I didn't get the job with the Nevada Donor Network, I was working as a director. Like I said, I was kind of just at a crossroads. And then that kind of let me know, like, well, what are you going to do now? You have to do something. And I really believe it was God kind of pushing me into like my purpose, because I just like, I'm a behavioral health company. So I had decided, if I'm going to do this, then I need to do it a certain kind of way. And so my personal goal was to raise the standard of excellence of behavioral health in Nevada. When you come to my agency, when you come to Mingo Health Solutions, like, you're knowing that you're getting quality service. It doesn't matter who's providing it, gender, race, or whatever, but we're proud to showcase who we are, but you're in good hands no matter who you are. And so that became my motivation and say, okay, I can do this, but I need to make change in regard to it. And I wanted to train providers and do so much more. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely. I'm going to dig a little bit more, because it sounds like that you had a natural fortitude, right? And a belief and a confidence in yourself that had built up over the years. But sounds like it started way back when you were in high school, right? This just natural ambition and the ability to overcome circumstances and overcome adversity. And you had some leaders around you, it sounds like, that were able to give you some pretty good advice and lift you up. But that may not have been everybody. And so I'm just wondering if there are any, was there any maybe negative feedback or challenges that you experienced in starting your business that, gave you pause maybe? It absolutely did not stop you. We see that. But did it give you pause and give you some things to think about?
So very interesting. Many people probably do not know this, but when I first started my business, I had a business partner. And while that partnership dissipated in about 9 months, I'm very grateful for that partnership because I think it did give me support, whatever fear that at the time, I don't think it was acknowledged of like moving on my own. But that was one person who tried to tear me down. I tried to help this person. And I said, this is not a good partnership. I am willing to help you do your own. I want to do my own, but we don't work well together. And that was just, I think I felt like what going through a divorce is like the crazy person,
that
acting up.
ripping apart. Yeah, just that
Yeah.
losing that fellowship or that even that friendship or whatever, that togetherness. Yeah.
And having to share everything you built, right? But even let me back up. So I had a few people who had come to me and said, Dinisha, I think you would be a great business owner. I want to invest in you, but they were trying to rob me, right? They were trying to take advantage of the fact that I'm young as an individual person. I didn't have a lot of money, didn't know, a lot about what starting the business is, but I knew behavioral health. I knew the operations up and down. Like I was working and contracting for these people, and, they would call me for anything because I figured out I could get it done. And so I feel, I don't fully remember just getting so much negativity, but I do feel like, hey, you were a person who had an opportunity to help me. You believed in me because you came to me. Why did you try to present me with a deal that would rob me? You wanted X percentage. And when I crunched the numbers, you were going to get that back in 6 months. And you wanted to feast off the red, and it makes me think of how record companies or different big organizations really try to do artists or people who don't know better. And so I'm not a desperate person. I rejected those. I definitely did have people who worked for me that I helped. And when they started their own, I'm telling you, I'm not worried about anybody having mine. As a leader, you can recognize people who are going to be employees and stay with you. And you can also recognize people who are going to be entrepreneurs or do their own. And so I had a few people that I knew that they had desires and potential to be entrepreneurs, and I mentored them. For free. They walked around me with a pen and paper, and anytime my mouth was open, that pen was to some paper, and they acknowledged that. And then when they did go, it is actually quite a few companies, if I want to toot my own horn, that I'm like, oh, you have birthed a lot of other success for families. And then, when they started their own, they kind of turned their backs or tried to throw shade. And I just was like, that was hurtful because I wouldn't have helped you if I thought otherwise. We have different audiences. And then I think the lack of resources, when I just first started, what I did was I worked my business for 6 months on my own. I saw my own, in addition to my job, I was working like crazy, 80 plus hours a week for 6 months and just saving. Like even my business partner, her role was supposed to be something else. So I didn't even have her do that part. I'm like, I got this. I do this in my sleep. I'm working, I'm billing, I'm doing everything, because when I wanted us to get out, because it wasn't like I had an investor or a ton of money saved, I wanted to have our office, have our marketing. And so I did that for 6 months before I even formally opened the first business. And that was how I built my own resources.
That is so awesome. So awesome. Like I said, every conversation, you just ask the question. You just got to ask the right question and you will get to the heart of it. You are, honey. Yes. Thank you. Okay. So MHS has now celebrated, as of this year, 7th year in business. Is that right?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is a huge accomplishment because, if we listen to some of the statistics about many businesses within that first year, what percentage of them fail, and then within that first 2 years, and then 5 years, and so I remember going to your celebration of your 5-year anniversary in business, and just the momentum, the growth that I've seen with Mingo Health Solutions. You just continue to grow. And so how how would you say that the growth has been able to occur within Mingo Health Solutions? What did it take for you, your mindset or skills that you had to develop to be able to experience the growth?
Yeah, so for me, as you know, as I'm sure those of you listening can tell, I'm a passion-driven person, right? And so I think my passion for what I did and for what we do and my belief in it has been really a major part of the foundation, along with faith, right? For me, faith is it, and having a mindset that there's no other option. And I think, like, looping back into your first question, you know, when I first was getting into it at the time, because I didn't do it like when people first said I should, people were like, oh, the industry is declining. My background, my passion is the provider training for paraprofessionals, because I believe in workforce development. And that was a big part of a lot of our ancillary services. And people were like, you know, there's no money in it anymore. You know, it's not getting approved. And I was like, do this service. I've seen this service work. I know that it's needed and it's not going away. It might look different. They might change, you know, requirements, but it's a bit, I experienced it too much from people as young as 4 to as old as 82. And so that was really my direct service passion. Of course, we're doing the therapy. So I was not moved by the naysayers or people saying, oh, it's not a good time, you won't do well. And ironically, like, we flourished in 6 months. I didn't expect my growth to happen that fast, and I had to quit my jobs, and I was thinking I would have like a year. So passion has definitely been like at the forefront. And when I hire people, like, my passion needs to meet their passion. You don't have to be as passionate about mental health. You need to be as passionate about administration and your job, but definitely still mental health, like understanding what within your skill sets, how it impacts the service that we do. As a leader, though, training is an area I had to grow in. I'm a natural teacher as well, but being this visionary and things growing fast, I could be like all over the place. And so I think one of the areas that I have definitely struggled in, not initially, right? Initially, I was excellent. My team were all stars. They could definitely probably do 90% of what I did. But it was putting things on paper, your standard operating procedures, so that if you have turnover or as you grow, people can still get that knowledge when they don't have as much access to me. I also had to improve significantly in my time management, because when you are used to working independent and the only person that matters is you, you can wait until a deadline as long as you hit it and procrastinate, but other people began to depend on me. And so that was just a skill that it was like, you have to do better. And I'm still not, can you imagine how much worse I was?
No, you're pretty good. You're pretty good. I mean, you know, I just think about, because I know how you work and how you operate. And there are times when I'm like, even in the midst of us doing a Zoom, you could be sending a text and an email at the same time. And it's like, bloop, bloop. And by the time we get off the Zoom, you have sent 3 emails and 5 text messages. And I'm like, Dinisha, my brain just doesn't work like that. You know, I can multitask, but I'm like, I gotta zone in because I might lose something. But honey, you just be right on it, okay? You paid attention to what they said in the Zoom, why you sent the emails, and on text.
And let me tell you this, and I think that's another lesson I had to learn. I think being the leader and the person who believes so much in other people, in my more immature years, I thought that everybody could be like me, right? I thought, you could do this, and everybody is not built to do the same thing. So even understanding where the members are, right? If you're the hands or the feet or the legs or the arms or the ears, and properly positioning people was something I had to learn. Like, you want to staff your weaknesses, but you want to set people up for success. I always intended to, but I wasn't always properly assessing their capabilities and putting them in the right place. And I did get pretty lucky with like my first few staff. I had just some dynamic people who complimented me very well. So it wasn't an issue until we began to grow. And then lastly, because I work so efficiently, sometimes I had those same expectations, and I didn't always take into account the different ways people learn and work, and, you know, maybe not being as clear in directions and instructions. So I had to grow in my expectations and the way I gave instruction, and also giving grace and know that people work differently. And I'll tell you a story really quick. I was working with this doctor, this psychiatrist, and I would talk to his office manager, and she was just messing up a lot of things that I thought an office manager should be able to do efficiently. And he was so easygoing about it, and I was just so frustrated. And he told me, he said, if she could do what you do, she would have your job.
What a lesson.
And still think that she should have been able to do more than what she was doing. But the nugget was very humbling. And I'm telling you, this was probably when I very first started my business around 2016, 2017. I never forget it. And it pops in my head when I'm dealing with my staff and I get frustrated, or I want to reassess to ensure that my expectations are realistic, and not that they can't, but just being mindful, right? I think that an entrepreneur is especially type skilled person, because there are so many different things that you have to do to be a successful entrepreneur. You have to be good at administration at some point. Like, I'm not as good of an administrator as you, but I guarantee you when I'm administrating, I'm on it. You have to be able to think in so many different facets and modes that I think a lot of people just don't have that skill set. And of course, being adaptable so that you can learn those that you don't have. But I do think it's a particular type of person, and I have to keep that in mind when, dealing with other people and my staff.
Yeah. So you've given us a lot of background of MHS and Dinisha, the woman, and, how it is that you grew this, I don't know if I want to jump out there, but I'm going to say empire, right? This MHS empire. And at some point in time, something sparked for you that there was something additional that needed to happen in your community. And for you, you went through a thought process of starting a nonprofit organization. Share with us what sparked that interest for you, that you saw a need, right? We know that people don't just start businesses for any reason. You don't just start a nonprofit. You've got to identify and hone in, if you want to be successful, on a particular need or gap or something that is not being provided in the service industry or for a product, in order for there to be any success that comes with it. So what sparked an interest for you, or what did you see that was missing? What need did you see in your community, and how did you come about starting Solutions of Change, and what was that process like?
So, it's so crazy. It goes back to those paraprofessional services. That really is why I talk about it, why I won't stop that training, because it's me at my core. Because first of all, I believe the services in there we all can use and need and can improve on. It's not just for those who have mental health diagnoses. But when services began to get cut for those ancillary services, number one, and then based on my experience, like I said, I've worked with people as young as 4 to as old as 82, all genders of adults and children. I've worked with adult males, I've worked with elderly males, and many diagnoses, right? A lot of diagnoses. And when I was working specifically with a lot of our African-American youth and our males and families, there was a lot of the things that I was doing very naturally that changed trajectories of families. The insurance might say, well, only this child is approved for service. But I, as a service provider, knew that if I don't approach this family, this child's life is going to be so much harder. So, I did a lot of unconventional things, but I was making change. And so I felt frustrated that an insurance was saying what wasn't effective. And what could not be used and what could not work, when I'm seeing this in real time. I mean, I could just cry thinking of some of the stories. And it wasn't just, oh, I helped you calm your anxiety, but like literally your mindset changed, your belief in yourself, your family has changed, and you guys are all doing better for it. So I was like, when I started Solutions of Change, I was very ignorant. I didn't know anything about nonprofit. All I knew is that with a nonprofit, I would have the same regulation as this for-profit and billing insurances. So my naive mind said, well, If they don't want to pay for these services and they want to say that you can't do this, this, and this when I know that it works, that I'm just going to create my own nonprofit and I'm going to fund my nonprofit, right? Like that's where my heart was. Just going to fund it. And then we're going to do these services for these families and ensure that they get what they need. And I don't care. Right. So that's how big the heart was, but how small my understanding was of how it works. And so that is how Solutions of Change birthed. I had some team members who were just very passionate and believed in the vision and wanted to be a part. And I think that's another thing that has helped us grow, right? People believe in what we're doing. And I know it's because I believe. And so they're constantly bringing me ideas. We should do this. We should do this. And so then it became something that I wanted to create for other people. Like, it's bigger than me. I want to help in this area, but if you guys want to come along, cool, I'll put this together for us. And that's really kind of where it started. So Solutions of Change has actually been an idea since 2017. It just didn't formally get started until a few years later. And I know you're probably going to ask a follow-up question, so I'll stop.
It just reminds me of a term that I've heard, which is ignorance on fire, right? You're like, I didn't know how to do this. I know nothing about this. I know about paperwork. I know about how to fund them. I didn't know about this, that, or the other. It was just ignorance on fire. Okay. And you just had to get out there and do something. You knew that something had to be done, something different than what you were seeing on the MHS side of things. And you said, okay, there's got to be a solution to this. Hence the name Solutions of Change. Right. And so yes, absolutely. So clearly you said that you were not aware of exactly how to get it done. When did that start to come together for you? And I feel like that I observed, because when I met you, we met around a particular event, which is like a flagship event that you do annually now with Solutions of Change called Healing to Health. And I met you around one of the times of year that you were going to be doing an annual Healing to Health event. And maybe it was your second annual Healing to Health event is when I met you. And so things started coming together for you. How did things start to come together for you when you said, okay, maybe I need to get some help for this? Did you reach out to some professionals? How did things start to come together for you?
Yeah, so when I did it, I reached out to a graphic designer, came up with the name. I'm big on my marketing and branding, and I have a natural knack for business, even when I'm not always being strategic. So really, Healing to Health was an MHS event. It really was my ministry. And I look at Solutions of Change at MHS as really like manifestations of like the totality of who I am, because MHS was limited in certain ways that it could do things, being a for-profit, and I wanted to do it. And there was times I was running it like a nonprofit. I'm like, this ain't good for business, right? And then I created Solutions of Change out of passion, but then later realized like, oh, this is really how this, works on a more fiscal side. But so I created the logo, and, we had already done the first Healing to Health before Solutions of Change was even thought of. And then I just began to tack on the logo for recognition. And I was so busy with MHS that I felt in my mind that I could figure out this nonprofit stuff, but I was like, okay, like you ain't doing this, get a professional. So I had an attorney figure out all of this, because I knew that with it being a 501c3, being a nonprofit, it was going to be important in how we registered it with the state and getting our bylaws. And so I had an attorney help with all of that. And then it kind of sat again because I was just so busy. I just wanted to have it ready. Yeah. And then you might recall, I attended one of your grant writing classes, right?
It took me a while to realize that. I was going through some old emails recently, and somehow or another, it was you and I having like an email dialogue or an exchange about you attending one of the grant writing courses. And I was like, well, it says right here, shit.
So again, that was me in my mind saying, I can write my own grants. I'm a great writer. I have a master's. I don't need to pay anybody to do this. And going back to business advice, I think I learned very quickly how to pay other people to do what they do well, how to pay other people to do what you don't want to do, and how not to like fully overwork yourself in certain areas. And so I attended your grant writing class under the premise of, let me figure this out so I could do this for SOC. And then nothing was happening because we were so busy over here. And then I was like, you can't do this. Why are you trying to? You don't need to. Do you really love writing grants, or are you trying to save money? No, I'm not as passionate about grant writing as Janise. Let's let the expert who actually loves this, who created an entire business named after it, do this. And so then we got with you, and you helped with the 501c3. And from there, I mean, it was just timing.
Exactly. And things just began to roll. It was just, I mean, you had everything. When I remember when we started engaging, and I was asking you, and I would say, okay, Dinisha, where is this documentation? Where's this paperwork? Do you have the bylaws? Do you have the articles? Do you have, what's this? Who's on the board? Everything that I asked from you, you had the pieces, right? Aww. It was just about putting everything together in a way that it fit neatly. But you had all the ingredients there, right? All the ingredients were there, ready, available. If I asked you for something, you was like, let me look at my email. That's somewhere. And you was like, bloop, here, send it. Or somebody from your staff, we work very well with your staff as well. And it was like, bloop, here it is, right? And so that was just a manifestation and a testament to your mind as a business owner, that you knew you could figure this out. And one of the ways of figuring it out was get some professional help, right?
Yeah.
That was part of figuring it out. You are much like me, and that I feel like I can learn whatever, right? Like I'm a lifetime student. I'm like, if I want to be a lawyer, if I want to be a judge, if I want to be an accountant, if I want to
go back to school and get back,
if I want to learn how to dig a pipeline, an oil pipeline across the country, I could probably figure that out too. I don't know. But it's just, what do you want to put your time and your effort into to see blossom and grow? And we absolutely know that is the way that this world works, by sowing and reaping, right? Whatever it is that you put time and effort into, that is the thing that will grow in your life. It just is a natural law, right? We know that for sure. So as a business owner, then that definitely showed the mindset shift that you had to make between running a for-profit organization versus now running and operating a nonprofit organization. There was still some kind of shift there that you had to make, right? Mm-hmm. And balancing the dynamics of how those two organizations run differently, operate differently, and have different needs.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So when I first started Solutions of Change, and I'm saying this to people out here who may be in similar situations, because I've recently had these conversations, I didn't know the value of the board outside from the fact that I knew it had to be on paper for me to register this. And so I started it with people who were, like I said, a couple of staff. They were contractors, so they weren't employees of MHS, and friends. And a couple of them were dynamic people, and then a couple of them were not, right? They were just passionate folks, but didn't have that push behind them. And so I remember telling my board, like, I don't have the capacity. I'm putting this together. This is the vision. We had our president, our vice president, and there seemed to be like nothing was carried along. And that goes back to what I said earlier about picking the right people, because I thought, okay, you guys are passionate. You seem to do well with me, but not realizing I was the guider all the time. And so now when a person has to initiate something, not saying they weren't initiators in other areas, but in this business nonprofit sector, nothing was happening. And then it became frustrating. So we put it back on ice, came back, learned that you need a stronger board if we're going to do this. And so I shared that because I think a lot of people start these nonprofits with passion, and then they put their friends or their family, and you have to make sure you have people who have the right skill set. Even today, as we're still growing our Solutions of Change board, my mindset about who can be a board member is so far from what it was even a year ago, because I understand. I think the other parts of it is like our funding, right? The funds look different, who our funders are. We've been very fortunate to get a few major grants, but our big boy, as our representative would say, right? The one that we started with, our very first one that we got in 2020, thanks to you. that keeps us, a lot of our salary and expenses are in that. And then the other grants kind of help us build more programming. So like keeping track of data in a different kind of way, making sure you're not going over budget, but then finding other things because grants are limited, right? It's not like for profit where you're getting money in this kind of way. On this side, you may have to wait to get your money. You may have to spend it first. And if you don't have it, how are you going to get it? Fundraising. Like you heard me say I'm a giver. So the challenge of being a giver is I struggle with asking.
Yes.
I'm not asking nobody for no money to save my life, right? So I've grown for sure, even with being with the solutions of change.
And it has turned out to be very well received. I find that because you are such a giver and people know you in the community for giving, when you go out into the community and now you have an ask, it doesn't seem like it's so difficult, right? That people seem to be pretty quick with saying yes. Now, it may not be yes to everything. It may not be yes to a total ask, but in some way, form, or fashion, I think general response to you and solutions of change and the organization as a whole has been yes and yes from the community.
Absolutely. And it's been really overwhelming. It's very frequently, I mean, I don't make the calls frequently, but of the calls that I make, how many times I've heard somebody say, for you, Dinisha? Yes. And so dropping another nugget, right? I naturally am a reciprocating person, but I'm in this social psychology class and we talk about pro-social behaviors of working collaboratively. And one of those pro-social behaviors is reciprocity. So it could be because I gave first, who knows? And I believe that, you may not always get back from where you give, but that circle of life, right? You reap what you sow. There are people who give that maybe I haven't given to, but like you're planting things into the world, into the atmosphere that allow it to come back. And you don't always do it with that intention, but it is a law and there's fruit behind it. So that's been great. And I think also what's different about Solutions of Change is the teamwork on Solutions of Change in terms of our board. Like, make no mistake, my MHS team is amazing. They have had my back. They step up beyond what they have to. But you're now working with another group of leaders beside you versus people that you're directing.
Yeah. And they're volunteers. They're volunteers. It's unpaid, and their time is not compensated in the way that it is on the for-profit side of things. Yeah.
So you can't be like, hey, I need this done, right? But of course they're integral people. They believe in the mission. So it definitely requires you to switch into a mode, and then nobody owns a nonprofit. So as much as I may have certain say in governance because they understand it's my baby, my vision as the founder, and I'm currently the executive director, the reality is the board is there to hold me accountable. And I've tried to put a strong board in place who can help me make good decisions where I don't know. And I've had to, you've been a part of it. I fought with my board about things that I want, and they said no, and I was upset.
Yeah.
But guess what? A month or two later, I was like, oh, I'm so glad you guys didn't let me make that decision.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, that is so good. That is so good. Thank you for sharing all of that. I hope you guys are really enjoying all of these nuggets. You guys may have to rewind, back up, go back and get all of these nuggets that Dinisha is sharing. I just love it. I want you to tell us a little bit more about Healing to Health. Just what is that program? Because it is such an integral part of Solutions of Change, and it is one of the programs that stood the organization up and gave you a programming foundation. When you talk about starting an organization, starting a nonprofit organization, there are programs and activities that need to be put in place. And I believe in this 3 model, right? I ask people, okay, what are the 3 programs that your organization provides or offers to the community? And if it's just one, let's just roll with that one. But what I don't want to see organizations do is say, oh, we have 15 programs, right? And then you're like struggling, not only financially, but on the operational side of things, of trying to run and operate 15 different programs when it's just you and 2 other board members, right? And a half a volunteer volunteer and no staff, so I believe in
Yes.
free programs, but if you got one top or key program, then cool, let's just run with that one program. And that is something that I saw you all do very effectively in the early stages of Solutions of Change, is that you guys honed in on this one program, Healing to Health. And so share with us, what is Healing to Health and how did it grow to be where it is now, that this year that just passed, 2023, you guys had something like between 100 and 150 registered attendees, and you were able to do like 12 different workshops and sessions, and you had speakers and from a wide variety. People came from out of town, out of state to attend Healing to Health.
That made me cry, girl.
Yes,
Yeah.
keep bragging on it. But tell us how it started.
Yeah, so a couple of things really quick. One thing that I do know how to do as a visionary business owner, whatever, is find what you do and do that well. I remember when I first started even MHS, there were opportunities to get into housing and other types of like adjacent industries. And I'm like, want us to be known for doing mental health and doing mental health treatments. We are a treatment organization doing that very well. I didn't even want us to do social services like food assistance and all of that, because we need to be premier at what we do. And so for Solutions of Change, thank you for acknowledging that. It's been like the same kind of thing. I don't believe in fixing what's broken. Thankfully, the way it started was great. And then we were able to just build onto it. So if you follow the track record of it, you'll see that it just slowly changes. It slowly adds a new element. And so I started Healing to Health in 2017. And it really was a ministry. I'm a person of faith, and I was in church as a minister. And my pastor was like, well, what is it that you want to do? I'd done praise team, I'd done youth stuff, I'd done women's ministry. And I definitely had this bubbling of, again, feeling a need. And so many people in the faith community, even clients that I work with want to come to church. Like for me, all the work I do is really ministry. But I was like, okay, well, I want to put on something around mental health in the faith-based community. And I remember my pastor said, you think that you're going to get people to talk about their mental health in church? And I was like, yeah. And I hadn't seen anything like it because I don't believe in recreating wheels. So I did do a little bit of research. Is there anything already happening like this out here? And there wasn't. I did learn through somebody else that Mountaintop had a program where it was a component of it, but it wasn't like this full mental health summit. So it was very original in my mind. And then I did research. So we started it, and the goal was, let's look at how physical, spiritual, and mental health all work together. Because in the Black church specifically, there's disparities around all those areas. And as a believer, I'm like, God wants us to have prosperity, even as our souls and our health prosper, right? He wishes that we would be in health in, 3rd John. And so that was the very first scripture. And so it started as just a 4-hour summit. I think we had 30 people come. I would always have, healthy eating. Shout out to Chef Keedy and some other people who catered. We did 3 of those small summits where they were just 4 hours. We had one speaker on physical health, one speaker on mental health, one speaker on spiritual health. And then we'd have some food. We got donations, prizes, giveaway, made it fun, did some praise and worship. And one of the things that, when you're in the work and you're doing it, I didn't think about it too much, but I can look back and say, we were definitely ahead of our time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Because now everyone's talking about it, but we were doing it. And, the very first summit was entitled Stress Out Summit, because I knew people were not going to come to something that had mental health in it. But if I can get you to talk about stress, then I can talk about chronic stress and make that connection. And so we were already just kind of slowly dropping seeds to make people more comfortable. Pandemic hit, and then also the physical health component was just through the roof, and I had to sit back and realign my vision. Sometimes you got to do that as entrepreneurs. I remember we had our 4th one planned, and Pastor Fowler, we were going to do it at Victory, and Pastor Fowler was going to speak, and I felt so ashamed to cancel it, but it just wasn't sitting right for me. And I think that the vision had kind of got diluted with all of these other components, and God was calling me to go back to the vision, realign it, and it's okay to stop it right now. And so we didn't have one for a couple of years, and then 2021 is when we came back and it was a full day conference.
Yeah.
And so now we have 3 tracks of workshops and it's just continued to grow. We did 9 workshops the last couple of years. And then this year we had 12. We added on a prayer worship night last year. And, I could go on and on and on. Go to the website, solutionsofchange.org, and learn about Healing to Health. Go follow the Healing to Health group on Facebook to see pictures and testimonials that we'll be uploading and just really understand. But like our goal ultimately is to destigmatize mental health in the faith-based community. So Solutions of Change is specifically meant to target specific disadvantaged populations. And in terms of mental health, the faith community is one that has this disadvantage or this disparity due to some of religious beliefs that keep them from accessing mental health support. So if we can bring this dialogue to that community, then they will be more open to getting help and not carrying, shame around experiencing mental health issues.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And you're talking about bringing the message of mental health to a whole nother community. Tell us about the collaborations, not just with Healing to Health, but another mindset, right? That nonprofit work is not meant to be done alone, right? Unlike a for-profit business, I could be a solo entrepreneur. You can be a solo entrepreneur. You don't have to hire staff. You can go and do mental and behavioral health solo if you want to be in private practice, right? I can run my business if I want to as a grant writer, solo entrepreneur, or I can choose to do something differently. It's very nimble in that sense to be a for-profit small business owner. But when it comes to the nonprofit sector, as you pointed out, because no one owns the nonprofit, the public owns it. It is a public charity to fulfill public good in many different areas. Solutions of Change happens to focus on mental and behavioral health and how that impacts and improves people's life. Tell us how working collaboratively and working in partnership with organizations has contributed to the success of Solutions of Change.
Oh man, we couldn't do it without our partnerships, right? We really, and I'm so glad that you highlighted that. I've gotten a lot of support on the MHS side, but we really have kind of kept to ourselves. Like, we do more to give in, let's go out and support. We've done a few events where we've had to collaborate, but Solutions of Change really is the embodiment of community. So when Healing to Health, for example, we won't stay there, but in 2021, the reason we were able to have that full day conference and offer it, I don't know if that year was free or was still for a minimal cost, just to cover some of back end things. Culinary Arts of Southern Culinary Arts Academy, their executive director at the time, Mark, he loved what we were doing, and he literally sponsored everything from the food to the venue to the service. If y'all know all the amazing things culinary does, like, that bill was a big bill. And then Nevada Partners, right? So Nevada Partners is the reason why we met culinary. They have been, Monica Ford, shout out to her, major supporters of me at MHS. And so SOC has, because of his big sister, has been able to mosey its way into places where it's more appropriate. And so I just, love Monica Ford. And so again, Nevada Partners has been a major partner, and we use their space every time we do Healing to Health. Well, not every time, but times that we do Healing to Health and other programs. But because of that relationship, it bridged it with culinary. We partner a lot with NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, for our youth summits. I know you know some others. I didn't think
Churches,
about this.
I'm just thinking about all the churches and schools.
Oh, yes.
Look, I can throw some out there. You guys partner with Metropolitan Police Department. I know to offer some trainings. I know that you guys have partnered with some corporate organizations to bring mental health education to the workforce. Yeah. So
we partner with CCSD. We do some training with them. Again, that was something through, it's now FACES. I can't remember what the initiative was in 2020 when it started, but we partnered with CCSD.
And CCSD, for people who are not from Las Vegas, is our Clark County School District.
Clark County School District. And actually, so that's Clark County. That's more of our public school, but Solutions of Change now partners with the SPCSA, which is basically the Charter School Authority. Nice. So Solutions of Change has the major partnerships, and I don't want to skate over the churches. Being a person of faith, and because Healing and Health is, like you said, our big event, getting their support is major, and it's happened organically, because I think even the leaders have been a little bit like weary, or it just takes time. But shout out to Pastor West and Nehemiah Ministries. They have been avid supporters since the very beginning. TCMI, they've sponsored members. So the collaborations look different. Sometimes it's them saying, I can't come, but I will sponsor 10 of my members, or I'll share this flyer. And some of it is, you can use our space, which Nehemiah allows us to do. Dr. Parson in New Antioch, sometimes it's pastors coming and saying, yeah, I'll speak on your event and invite my members. And then, through 2-3 years, now they're sponsoring and want to be more major partners. And so I would just encourage, one of the things for me as a leader and business owner is I never have had the mindset of like immediate gratification. I've always been long-term visionary. And when I said like this is the only option, when I've gone through things in business where there were struggles, where it wouldn't happen, I had to keep going, because I knew that this long-term vision that was given to me by God was going to come, and I had to hold on and persist. And so when I think of some of the relationships and how over time they have built, it's been beautiful. And I tend to not get, we have our moments, but generally I don't really get in my feelings if someone tells me no, or if somebody doesn't support, because I know that the world is bigger than me. Everybody's decision is not based on me, right? Like, I'm not that arrogant. And I think experiences like this, though, continue to grow that maturity and that mindset when things might take a little time. People want to vet you and warm up to you, or maybe it's just not the right time for them. So staying positive, still being you. So just because you told me no, or you didn't support, I'm not going to pull back. I can't stop giving my gift, right? But, you have your moments like, you didn't give to me, I'm not going to give to you. But, staying in alignment with my character, and things have just happened organically over time. And then it's a time and a moment, and then boom, it blows up. So, I mean, there are so many other partners. We get a lot of donors, Clark Law Group, who support. I don't want to get to naming and forgetting people.
People can go on the social media, go on Solutions of Change Instagram, and many of those partners I know, because I have seen the post, liked the post, shared comments in the post. If you go to Solutions of Change's Instagram and Facebook, you will see many of their partners there. But I think that I just wanted you to share how important it is, and what partnership and collaboration has truly contributed to the success of Solutions of Change. So as we wrap up, I want you to maybe share just a little bit, and you've been giving advice here and there. So I hope that people have been taking note of what it is that has really contributed to the success of Solutions of Change. Because as you shared in the beginning, this organization started out, you kind of had laid it down for a little bit. Let me put that down, because it wasn't really growing at the pace that you had anticipated. Maybe wasn't getting the funding that you had anticipated. You were contemplating, should I write the grants myself? Should I learn it? Should I hire a grant writer? Don't know. And so it really has taken, I would say, about a 5-year, process for Solutions of Change to get to where it is now, and having 10 paid staff, 4 contracted staff. You have accounting functions in place. You have grant writer and grant management in place. You have volunteers that come out of the woodworks, and partnerships, and all these partnerships. And so it really has just blossomed and grown to be this really sustainable organization, and providing awesome services in the community for free and very low cost. What would you say are some of the most important elements that have contributed to the success of Solutions of Change that you would give to founders, other board members, other executive directors, staff members, and even volunteers of nonprofit organizations as we wrap up?
Woo! First of all, thank you for laying all that out there, because, like I said, my mind be all over the place so much. The first thing I think is giving that piece of advice that was given to me. Your team makes the difference. we spend so much of our time at work, and now not me so much, but I'm meaning in the office day to day, but your team makes a difference. You need people who believe, people who operate in excellence. They're only going to rise to as much as you are. So you also have to model that and treat people well. Right? Like if you're going to have a team, you got to treat them well. And I think that's one of the things that's worked well for us. Our team knows that they're cared about. They also carry that same passion, right? They believe in this. There have been times where my faith has began to waver, and because of what I poured in the foundation that was laid, now they're coming back saying, no, this is going to work. I believe for us. Dinisha, you told me this, right? So that is important. Training and allowing opportunity for promotion. People want to be a part of something and they want to feel purposeful too. And so giving them the opportunity to strengthen their skills and be able to get promoted within an organization. I mean, we've been able to do that on both sides. I think, again, it has worked very well. Staff your weaknesses and do not be don't be prideful and arrogant, right? I let people know off the bat, these are my challenges, this is what I need you to do, right? Because if I could do it, what do I need you for, right? And whether that's willingness and capability, right? Maybe I don't have the time, maybe I don't have the skill set, but right now I can't do it, don't want to do it, I need you here. Staff your weaknesses and don't be afraid, to put people who are stronger and smarter and better at you. I think I have people around me who are a lot better at a lot of things than I am, and that makes me proud. So staffing your weaknesses. And then I would say is allow a person to be able to do 80% of what you can do. And I don't know if you've heard that before, but sometimes we have this expectation that you're going to do it exactly how I will do it or how I can do it. If you can do this 80% of the way I will do it, that frees me up so much to go do so much more that I need to do. And the caveat with that is, I got to be okay with how you do it as long as it gets done. And that doesn't mean that there's not learning opportunities and not training, but let that 80% or go ahead and run. It's going to be okay because we're building something more. And then lastly, I would just say, collaborate and work together. One of the things that I'm most proud of is that I have worked with other smart, strong women that I am proud of, that I look up to. So, you are one of them. All of my directors, we got Lakeisha Oliver, our deputy director at Solutions of Change, to Tara Murphy, our director at MHS. And, being in mental health is a female dominant field. We do want our men, so come on out,
Yeah.
But to be able to work with, and I think that is very sacred to me because you might hear women don't work well together. Black women don't work well together. Strong women don't work well together because of ego. But I could tell you that the work that we have done in the growth of both MHS and MHS defies all of that stigma. I could just cry. It defies every single piece of it. We're women of color. Both organizations are predominantly minority. We are educated. We are strong-willed, strong-minded. But we are humble. So it's you attract what you are. So I can connect with another integral, honest, intelligent woman, and we can have hard conversations and work together and bring all of our jewels to this here table and share where we need to. And I think that has been one of my most proud moments, I think, as a leader and being in business and nonprofit, because I did a lot on my own growing up. Like I said, I was 8 and 12 years older than my brother and sister. And mental health, I can tell about the journey and the track, but I know that it called me because it plagued my family. I mentioned my mom's addiction, but growing up, I can look back now and say, I had depression. I did not want to live. Who wants to live in a household where their parent has addictions? And so I had to get out, right? That there's no way, no other option. It had to be this. I might as well have killed myself, honestly, right? If I wasn't going to get out of this, and I wasn't going to believe in what I could do with my future and make the life that I want, then I never would have chosen to endure that. But I believe so much in it. And I think that mentality has carried me, but I did a lot on my own. I had to figure so much out. And so it's beautiful to rest in knowing I don't have to do it by myself. I wasn't meant to. we need others, and to be able to just really create that support system, whether that's through collaboration or through, the various ways, and like lean into that. And then, Ubuntu, I am because we are.
Woo! Every time I get with my sister friend, Miss Dinisha Mingo, I learn something new. We feed off of each other's energy, and we just have this natural flow. Thank you so much, Miss Dinisha Mingo, for being here with the Nonprofit Leaders Academy and sharing all of those valuable nuggets. And listen, we didn't get to everything that we wanted to discuss, and I'm sure that there is so much more. You guys, if you want to hear more from Miss Dinisha Mingo, just down here below, put some comments, share with us what you might like to want to know, what didn't we touch on. She has a wealth of information and knowledge, having now grown 2 successful organizations that contribute to her community by way of offering supportive mental and behavioral health services. We thank you. We thank the staff of both organizations, both MHS and Solutions of Change. The community thanks them. And we are just really forever grateful. I know that there are so many clients that have benefited from the organizations. And, maybe at some point in time, we can do some type of interview with some clients that have benefited. I know that there have been some testimonials, some people that have attended Healing to Health that have written, 10-page letters to you after attending a Healing to Health to say how much it has impacted them, their family, their marriage, their church, and it just continues to grow and blossom. So congratulations and thank you. All right, you guys, you're welcome. That has been another episode of our Nonprofit Leader Series. And you guys keep watching, because we're going to have more leaders like this coming on to share their stories of nonprofit success and how they have been able to build their organizations and the mindset that they have had, or the skill set that they have had to develop, or the professional assistance that they have been able to leverage, and partnerships in order to get those organizations off the ground and running successfully. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Bye.